it was at this time where I went to my very first AZREIA event. I still remember, I want to say it was November of 2007, around there. And it was the annual event.
Mm-hmm. The anniversary.
Yeah. And I remember walking around and I'm talking to my mentor. I was like, these guys, what's hard money? 18%? Why the heck would anyone pay 18%? And that is, again, a big mistake of my time, right? Like, if I had the foresight, like, I could pay 18%, buy a $30,000 home, and rent it out for $600 a month. I'm cash flowing. This is exactly why I got into this business.
You're listening to the AZREIA Show. If you're looking for quality real estate investing information that you can trust, you've found it. Stay tuned and join the tens of thousands of members that have already benefited from AZREIA, your home for education, market information, support, and networking opportunities that will advance your real estate investing career.
Hello, great state of Arizona. Welcome to another episode of the AZREIA Show, where I am Marcus Maloney and I have my co-host,
Mike Delpree. What's up?
And today we have a very special guest, hails from right here in Phoenix, Arizona, like most of our guests, but he is internationally known. He is the man here in Arizona. We want to welcome Steve Trang to the show. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So for those who don't know, or for those who've been under a rock, man, give us your background. What were you doing prior to real estate?
Prior to real estate, I did everything that you were told to do, right? You go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and work till you're 55, 60, whatever, and retire. And then you can enjoy life, right? And then we all read that same purple book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, started buying rental properties. And as I was buying properties, you kind of see the other person, right? I was working with a realtor at the time. It's like, man, these guys' lives are pretty cool. And they seemed, pretty relaxed. It's pretty low stress. There's no deadlines, or at least it seems, and no bosses. And I was like, man, this looks pretty cool. I want to do this too.
All right.
And so I got distracted, like every other realtor, shiny object syndrome. Like the goal was to buy rental properties. And I got my real estate license, right? It was just
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what that was. I was an engineer. I got a master's degree in electrical engineering. I was really passionate. I actually, enjoyed school. I know it sounds kind of weird. But then once I worked for a corporation, I realized I hate working for a boss. So that purple book was eye-opening in more ways than one.
What was it about work that made you realize it?
For me, it actually wasn't so bad because I was working, like I get in at 9:30 and I was out by 5, So it wasn't really having a boss or the structure per se. Is that when I was in school, I got to read these research papers from like the top schools in Illinois, in China, in Taiwan, like what they're doing in semiconductors. And it's interesting. Like I was learning about, what the Samsung phones today with like the foldable LED screen.
Yeah.
Like I was learning about that stuff back in 2003.
Wow.
Right. USB 3.0, which is what like a lot of devices have now. I was working on that in back in 2005, 2006. So like that stuff was really cool to learn about.
It is.
And once you work at a real corporation, you don't get to do any of those things, right? You don't get to do anything that you learn about because, and I was like challenging them on this, and they basically said like, if we went and did something, right, that Steve Trang thought of, and we put it out on the market and it failed, we just spent $6 billion on your idea and it went absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that makes sense business-wise.
Right.
But that's not what I went to school for. I didn't go to school to be a cog in a machine. I went to school to create
and innovate.
And so you can forget those. Like unless you have a PhD and 15 years experience, you're not in the rooms.
Right.
So that your visionary came out of you.
Yeah. So it's depressing now.
It was being held back.
Right. So, I graduated, I get to, spread my wings, like put those wings back in. We're not doing any of those things. You're not here.
You get paid to do this.
Yeah. You get to go here, move some things around the monitor and, just kind of iterate small, tiny changes. Like it makes a difference, right? But not any difference that like, hey mom, you won't believe what I worked on today.
Got it.
Gotcha.
How long did you deal with that feeling before you made the jump?
Probably the whole time, right? So 3.5 years.
3.5 years before you decided to move on.
Yeah.
Got it.
So once you finally decided to move on, how did you make that transition?
So the right way probably is to gather intel, do your research, and like whatever, make sure you dot your I's, cross your T's, have a plan, right? I didn't do any of those things. Okay. So for me, I met that realtor. I was like, hey, like you seem to live an interesting life. What do I have to do to do what you do? He said, go get your real estate license. I'll teach you everything I know. So this is 2007. I got my real estate license 2.5 weeks. It was a lot easier back then than it is today.
Okay.
So I had my license 2.5 weeks, submitted my 2 weeks notice at Intel, and I went all in.
Wow. Okay. Jumped out there really
You're at
quick.
Intel. That's a great job.
That was
Great
a
company.
Great job, great benefits, right? Health insurance was awesome. I was getting stock options and all that great stuff, right? But it doesn't matter. The money doesn't matter if you're not fulfilled.
happy. Yeah.
Wow. So you just jumped. I think I noticed as a trend, a lot of people, they want their ducks in a row, which is it can be right.
Mhm.
But I think that's not having a plan and just jumping in sometimes works for people.
Well, the thing I've learned is, because I'm the crazy person that makes a lot of mistakes. I have failed so many times. The things I've learned is that if you screw up, at least now you know where you screwed up and you can fix it.
Yeah.
Whereas you're sitting there thinking about the things can go wrong, you don't know what's wrong, what's right. Then you're just kind of guessing and you're kind of at a standstill. But by going out there and screwing up, now you know, oh, I was supposed to make a right turn instead of left turn, and you can back up and go make that right turn. There's nothing stopping you from doing that.
That's true.
I mean, failures push you towards your success a lot faster.
100%.
Because you, like you said, you find out where you made those errors and you say, okay, I can go back and I can fix it and get back on track.
Right.
So, okay. So you met that realtor, got your license. Did you just start selling houses? Is out there, man, doing open houses and
It's
stuff?
easy, right?
Yeah,
You just
it
get
was
your
really
license and money just.
Yeah, especially in 2007. Yeah, it was really easy. So yeah, I mean, I did all the right things. I didn't do all the right things. I take a step back. I did all the things I thought I was supposed to do, right? But here's the thing: when you go from a 9 to 5 to working for yourself, which a lot of people on the show, if they haven't made that jump yet, they want to make that jump. Man, self-discipline is so important. Having a structure, and so for me, I was just wasting probably the first 6 months of my career. Like, I was getting things done as I was closing escrows, but I didn't know about time management. I didn't know about return on time, return on investment. Is this an income activity, or is this a making me feel good that I work today activity? And we spend so much time doing things that we think we should be doing versus the things that actually make us money. The other thing too was because no one ever said, like, make sure you do these activities. One of the things that happens a lot, and you and I kind of talking offline about this, is firefighting, right? Firefighting feels like an income activity because if the deal doesn't close, we're not getting paid. But firefighting is an activity that can be done after lunch. Yeah. Right. So if we can control our day from like 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., then in prospect or do income activities from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., we get the whole afternoon to put out fires because that's when all the crap happens. Right. But we spend our whole day putting out fires where we're not getting new leads, new prospects, new appointments. And we have this entrepreneurial roller coaster that we've all experienced.
Because it only take a couple of hours to do those high income generating activities.
Doesn't take a whole lot. I mean, 90 minutes if you're brand new can change your life. 90 minutes a day can change your life in the beginning.
So someone brand new, what are a couple income generating activities you would highly suggest?
So first I'll say what are not income activities.
Okay.
Right. For not income activities is pulling lists, skip trade, right? Getting your website right, sorting your CRM, which we used to think is prospecting. A lot of people when it's not a prospect is like fixing or updating the CRM. So income activities is actually dialing, actually talking to somebody, right? If there's an activity where I can talk to a person on the other line, for us in this business, that is an income activity. And it doesn't have to be necessarily homeowners, right? It could be talking to realtors for deals. It could be talking to not necessarily your peers, but other people that may be aware of opportunities for us to purchase. But it has to be an activity where we're trying to talk to another person. Creating your website, updating your CRM, all these things can be done after hours. But most people
want to do that first.
Yeah. And there was a guy, right? I still remember to this day, like every day as a realtor, I remember every day going into my office, he was working on his website. And so like we actually made the joke, like we actually called him by his first name, last name.com. I won't say it because it's kind of embarrassing, but that was what we referred to him as. And I checked out that website earlier this year and sparked.
Yeah.
See, and that's what we tell a lot of people that we work with throughout AZREIA is focus on those income generating activities. Don't worry about your website. Don't worry about your squeeze page and, business cards
LLCs.
And everything like that. Yeah. Just get out there and talk to people. That's the most important activity.
Pick up the phone. There's money on the line.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what happened as a realtor? Did you have was that guy your mentor? Or?
Yeah, he mentored me for a good 5 years, and he was a great mentor. He was who I needed in that point in my career.
Got it.
Right. I was an engineer. I was awful at sales. He was exactly the mentor I needed, someone that gave me inspiration and taught me the language of sales. Over time, as we get into personal development, right, surrounding ourselves with the right people, algorithm, right? And so I moved on. And what was the question again? Like, what was it?
Yeah, I was just wondering if that person that introduced you to be an agent was your mentor
Yeah,
as well.
so he mentored me for the first 5
Got it.
years, and he would. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be here. I would not be here today.
Yep.
If it weren't for him inspiring me and leading me.
Okay.
Awesome.
So what was that light bulb that switched on where you say, okay, I enjoy being a realtor, but I need passive income, or I need to start really doing some deals?
The passive income, again, I totally took my eye off the ball, right? Read the Purple Book,
Mhm.
and I kind of refer to my first 9 years of my career as like the lost decade, you know,
Okay.
because I truly was taking my eye off the ball.
So what? Let me stop you right there, Steve. So what happened? You took your eye off the ball because what intrigued you?
What was the ball first?
Yeah. What was the ball?
that real
The
estate
ball was to
agent?
buy,
Or
the ball was to buy passive real estate.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
That was the ball. And what happens is a lot of us get into this business for one capacity or another, for time freedom and financial freedom. Like,
Yeah,
those are the two most
yeah.
common things, right? We all get to it for the same reason. And once we get into it, we completely forgot why we got into it,
Mhm.
right? And then we start chasing, we start playing the comparison game. Like, what are you doing? What are you
Yeah.
doing? And like, oh, how much you make last month? Oh, I got to make that much this month,
Yeah.
right? What car are you driving? Oh, I got to drive that car. Market just bought what house? Oh, I got to buy. Like, we get into the comparison
Mhm.
game, and we completely forget why we got into it for ourselves. And once we're in it, we're completely distracted by our
Mhm.
environment.
yeah,
Yep.
great observation, man.
Comparison is the thief of joy. I
Yeah.
always tell people that is the thief of joy, is always looking at the next person, seeing how you stack up to that person and how
Yeah.
you compare.
And you can't.
You can't,
You
because
just can't.
their life is their life, your life is your life, and that's
Right.
what you got to focus on and remember. So you were an agent, and your whole identity, your whole ideology was passive income.
Mhm.
What did that agent do? What did you see that took your eye off the ball?
Well, I would say there's a lot of struggle, right? I think initially getting in, like, this is the time where everyone's going through
Yeah.
foreclosure. So instead of talking about passive income, I'm watching these realtors get divorced. I'm watching all these contractors get divorced. I'm watching big money come in from Utah and New York, buying all these houses cash. I was showing homes in Maryville for $35,000.
Mhm.
God, I wish I'd go back and buy those properties, you know? So I got to witness what the wealthy were doing, and I got to witness, you know, what the tragedy of our
Mhm.
times. And it was at this time where I went to my very first AZREIA event. I still remember, I want to say it was November of 2007, you know, around there. And it was the annual event.
Mhm. The
Right.
anniversary.
Yeah. And I remember walking around and I'm talking to my mentor. I was like, these guys, what's hard money? 18%? Why the heck would anyone pay
Right.
18%? And that is, again, a big mistake of my time, right? Like, if I had the foresight, like, I could pay 18%, buy a $30,000 home, and rent it out for $600 a month. I'm cash flowing. This
Yeah.
is exactly
Let-
why I got into this business. And
You'll cash flow and recoup your initial investment in like 5 years. I forgot exactly how many years it was. I
Yeah.
remember going through that in my head.
right, but I didn't, because I didn't have the right mindset. I wasn't the person I needed to be yet.
Mhm.
And so I'm just sitting here judging people. And, you know, something you mentioned earlier, being coachable, it's that I was not a coachable person at that time, right? I came in with these preconceived notions, with these limiting mindset beliefs that got in my way and did not serve me.
Yeah.
So you went to AZREIA. So you saw the opportunity.
I saw the opportunity, completely disregarded it. I was like, that's stupid. Why would anyone do that?
You went
Man.
back to real estate agent.
Yeah, so I went back to realtor, right? And I would make, you know, my piddly commissions,
Mm-hmm.
you know, selling $50,000 properties, $80,000
Mhm.
properties. I remember like in 1 year I sold 4 properties, one for 10.5, 17,
Wow.
19, and like 24, right? The commissions were not great, right? The 10.5, I double ended it, right? So I got both sides.
Woo.
But I learned, you know, the importance of hustle, because this is around the time where I got my REO accounts. So I was listing properties for the banks, foreclosure properties.
Okay.
And the way you get the foreclosure deals or the listings is not through the front door, which is what a lot of realtors, you know, you go knock on front door, you go to bankofamerica.com, you go to chase.com,
Right.
you go to wellsfargo.com, and you apply to be an REO agent, and no one returns your calls, no one returns your emails, right? You just get an automated email that says, thank you for your interest. We'll let you know, right? Don't call me, we'll call you,
Right.
right? And so for me, it was at this time where I would actually go to the bank conferences, find the asset
Smart.
managers,
Yeah.
get them drunk, get them bottle
Mhm.
service, talk to the girls, bring them back to the roped off section, and come home and have listings. So I'm not saying this is the right way to do business.
Mhm.
I'm just saying that's what worked
It's
for me.
a way.
That's what worked for me.
I mean, but sum it up, it was just relationships.
It's relationships, talking to people,
Yep.
prospecting.
So going back into that era of a downturn, as you know, all the talk today, right? So we're at the highest we've ever been, unseen this.
Yeah.
There's always, everyone has their theory of crash or no crash, dip. Not here to say all that. However, when you said Utah, New York, there's a different breed of buyers that come into the market, and things are going to be handled differently. So maybe go into what can someone in the business now prepare? How can they prepare for a change, or what should they do?
Yeah, I appreciate this question because a lot of people talking about what you should do to get ready, right, for this upcoming thing. And I think there's a couple of different things. You should be prepared, for your cash flow to take a hit. You should have some reserves. But this idea that some people are talking about is like liquidating, selling everything so you have more cash to play in the next market, I think is unnecessary. I think that's extreme. And here's the thing, right? I kind of mentioned before, like I'm in Collective Genius. It's a mastermind of the top wholesalers and flippers in the country.
Got it.
Right. And so for a long time, I was the wise old man in our circle of friends, right? Because I've been through one crash. I'm in a room full of guys that have been through 3 or 4 crashes.
Love it. Yeah.
Right. And I remember I was talking to a friend in a private conversation. It's like, I don't know if I want to spend $2 million on the house right now because like I don't know what's gonna happen in the market. I was like, all right, first of all, how much do you make a month? Okay. Like you can afford like 20 of these payments a month, right? So step one. Right. But step 2, today we are not prepared to take advantage of this market. But all those people that are saying the sky is falling right now, right? We don't have to listen to them today because they could be right, they could be wrong. So we got, 2 different like fields of people or groups of people, right? Everything's gonna be fine. We got the group of people that the sky is falling, right? All we can do is just keep running our business, play our game. True. And the moment the sky falls, we start talking to the other group of people, right? Okay. Because they've got all the money they've been setting aside. Now they're the people we're talking to. It's like, hey, I know you were setting your money aside to buy these properties. Now we're wholesaling deals to you. Now we're flipping deals to you. Now you're funding our deals, right? So I think the issue is not necessarily we need to get ready. It's just we need to be resourceful enough to find the people that are ready for the next market.
Good. Love it. Good question. Good answer. Good question and answer.
I wish I knew the New York and Utah. I always say China, Australia, and Canada.
Man, so I remember growing up, right? So I'm Chinese, right? I speak Fujian, which is a worthless dialect in the United States, right? It might be useful in parts of New York, but only reselling whole life policies. Besides that, like it's not useful in the United States. It's the most common dialect in Southeast Asia, but useless in the United States. And so my dad was like, when I was growing up, like, you should learn Mandarin, you should learn Mandarin. I was like, Dad, we're in the United States. When am I going to ever need Mandarin? Well, during the downturn, when all the money was coming in from China, that's when I should have learned. That's when I should have known Mandarin, because I got dismissed by a lot of people from China. They're like, oh, he's just a white ABC, right? American-born Chinese. Like he's not useful to us,
right?
So only the people that spoke Mandarin were the ones that thrived when they're dealing with Chinese money. Yeah. So I completely got dismissed. Like, yeah, you know what? Thank you, but but again, like, we'll call you, right?
Another thing I heard about China, because where it was, hey, Californians are come through. Well, they always been coming through Arizona.
They have. If I ever become governor, we're building a wall.
There you go.
Stop the California.
We support you, Steve. No, I guess in China they're moving to San Francisco, like high income. Like they're moving out of China to be cheaper to live in San Francisco, which is driving another way of driving people to Arizona and other states. Just never knew that. I thought it was just California to Arizona, not another outside.
Oh yeah, I mean, you see it in San Francisco, Toronto, Vancouver, all these high expensive. I mean, New York, right? Manhattan, like. People that are parking their money in Manhattan are Chinese or Russian or whatever.
Amazing, man. That's great.
Boston too.
Good old Boston.
So how did you pivot then into, how did you refocus and get back into the investment space?
So it actually got into, I was accidentally flipping houses. So, as a realtor, I got into coaching around 2010. And one of our core messages was your home sold guarantee or we'll buy it. Right. Okay. And in 2010, market was still kind of interesting, right? So there wasn't as much competition. So at that time, doing your home sold guarantee will buy it, I would show up to people's houses and they're like, we want you to pay cash. Like, no, like we have to list it for 120 days. Like this doesn't work this way. Like we have to list it for 120 days. And if we can't sell it, then I'll buy it. And we got people like, well, I want the cash offer today. I was like, no, like Marcus, you understand, like you'll make more money if we wait. They're like, no, I want it today. So I started buying houses at 80% of market value at that time. And we were wholesaling before wholesaling was a term. And so we wholesale a few houses and then it's like, man, this 80% is too much.
So kind of go back, Steve, real quick for the novice that don't know what wholesaling is.
Oh yeah. So wholesaling is you buy a deal at wholesale prices, you close on it, and you do almost nothing before you put it on retail on MLS.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
So I was wholesaling. I mean, the most I was doing, some of these I was doing a little bit of carpet and paint, but predominantly it was just a good steam clean, right? Wow. It was just a cleaning. Right. And I would list it and I'd make 10, 15, 20K just wholesaling. But then it dawned on me, like, we're running out of money. We got to lower it from 80% to 75%. And we did. And they kept saying yes. So we literally ran out of money. We started wholesaling. But as we were getting these deals, we're like, we need to start keeping some of these. Right. So my wife is in my ear, like, you need to keep some of these, like, but we need the revenue. She's like, no, we don't. So we kept a few of those, and those have been great. And in less than 10 years, they paid themselves off, right? Like the rent, I did the math, right? What we bought it for and the rent over 10 years, they all paid themselves off. So again, I wish
it's amazing.
Would have bought more.
Wish I would have bought more. Wish I have remembered again why we started, which is I think the hardest thing for a lot of us as entrepreneurs.
It is, and sometimes I face that same thing, is because okay, I want the passive income, but then it's like, well, somebody's willing to give me 30 grand for this right now today. And what do people always say? A bird in the hand is better than two in the bush, or whatever, however it goes. And you say, all right, well, let's take this now money and don't worry about the later money, because the later money, you can always pick it up later. And sometimes you can't.
It never does.
Yep.
Yeah. So like we keep thinking like, I'll just put the money back into the business. I'll get more opportunities. I get more deals. I can do this and that. And we really just need to take down the best deals. Right? That was a lesson learned later on.
Love it. Yeah. Especially being around, over 10 years now, it's like you start to really feel, like you said, having those houses paid off, you start to feel and see the benefits.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, wow, this is amazing. Like I tell new people, like, even if emergency pops up and you have a house, that's the real wealth, is the equity that you paid down and appreciated. You could access that.
You can access that. And that was like one of the greatest things I learned in the past few years is the tax-free income or tax-free cash from doing cash out refis. Right. Yeah. I mean, like a lot of the wealth I've created in the last few years is not because of how smart I am, it's just because I own real estate. That's it.
There you go, man. That's great.
And that's one of the things that we tell people. So let's take a brief break. When we come back, we'll be back with Steve Trang, and we'll finish up our conversation.
Are your real estate dreams on hold? With work, kids, everything else going on, time is limited. Most days you feel like the world's on your shoulders. You might even say to yourself, if I just had someone to lean on and push me in the right direction, I know things would happen quicker. Well, then you need to check out the Deal Finders Club, a community of investors eager to close more deals, sign more contracts, and just get ahead in life. The DFC provides weekly coaching, thriving online community, and all the education you need to be confident. DFC is your fastest path to closing more deals. To learn more, head over to AZDFC.com. That's AZDFC.com.
All right, guys, we are back with Steve Trang here, who hails from here in Arizona. So one of the things I wanted to ask you while we were off air, Steve, is you have a very successful podcast, man. How did that evolve? How did that get started? Why?
Yeah, so appreciate that. And we were talking about income generating activities earlier, right? So one of those income generating activities, actually back in my old office, was door knocking. So we were door knocking all the people that are leasing in our building, see who is, because they're business owners, right? Yep. Like maybe they have people that need to buy, need to sell, whatever. And while we're door knocking, I met a guy named Vic Heredia, and he's another big player in town. At that time, he was just kind of wholesaling a little bit here and there. So we connected, and he's like, hey, Steve, I got tickets to, I think it's The Edge by Dean Graziosi.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, yeah, I got an extra ticket. You want to go? I was like, yeah, sure. And it actually went like the same day that I actually buried my grandmother. So I went from a funeral to this event. And so obviously a different state of mind. But while I was there, Brandon Burchard was on stage, and he mentioned that people want to hear your story. They want to hear your story. Like, you got to tell your story. And the whole time I'm thinking, okay, this guy's selling a product, which he was, right? But, he's like, you got to do one of three things. Either you need to write a book, start a blog, or do a podcast. I was like, I already wrote a book and that went nowhere, right? I already have a blog. No one reads that. Let's start a podcast, see what the heck, right? And the cool thing about social media or podcasts and stuff like this is that if you fail, no one knows, right? If you put it out there and it doesn't work, it completely blows. No one knows, right? So there's no risk. So I was like, I'm going to do 10 episodes, see where it goes. And man, after a second episode, it just completely took off, right?
Wow.
Episode 1 was Templeton Walker, who you probably know. Episode 2 was Carlos Reyes and Sal Shakir. And I mean, it just took off. So
instantaneously.
And it was, again, like, people want to hear your story and, taking action. I mentioned earlier, I jumped in right away. Like, Brandon Burchard spoke on stage on a Saturday. I made an announcement Wednesday after I'm starting a podcast, like Facebook Live. Guys, doing a podcast, check out next week. I didn't have a title for the show. I didn't know who the guest was gonna be on the show. I didn't have a format for the show. Just went for it. I bought the domain name, I want to say on Monday, made the logo on Monday. Templeton agreed on Tuesday, and Wednesday was our first episode we went.
That Dean event, I think I was there. Was that over in Scottsdale, like the Fire Sky or?
It was DoubleTree Reserve.
DoubleTree, yeah, that's right. Okay,
Yeah.
I was there, man. I saw that brand. They gave away all his books. Yeah, that was a great event, man.
Yeah, I mean, I just watched,
That's
right?
funny.
Information marketing.
That was a big class.
You just watch all those people that walk to the back of the room and spend $2,000 for his product.
He's good at what he does, man.
He's really good at what he does.
So, all right. So you just once again, you quit your job. You just did it. No plan, right? So you have to pick up success leads clues, right? So that's amazing. So Templeton, then Carlos, man. So what do you think it was? Like that made it just go.
So
looking back,
this sounds ridiculous, right? So I grew up listening to gangster rap, right? So like I had.
Who was your favorite artist?
Thugs and Harmony.
Okay,
right?
Cleveland.
See, first of the month, cash flow. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. So 50 Cent, right? He was successful for what? Just calling people out and having them respond, right?
That's
so he called out Jay-Z, Nas, Ja Rule, whatever. And when they responded, now everyone knows who 50 is, right? So I call this the 50 Cent model. So what did I do? I reached out to everyone's influential. Hey, you want to come on my podcast? They come on the podcast and they're sharing on their storyline. So like my authority was very little when I started. After about like 8 or 9 episodes, I had all this authority, right? Social media, credibility and so on. So that was the plan when we started it. And thankfully it worked out really well.
Wow. So I'll also say, 1, you're a great host. 2, you're doing Facebook Lives.
Facebook Live.
Do you think that helped in a way?
I think it helped a lot because we're like tag people, right? Because this is a time where Facebook Live was already up and running. It was already kind of slowing down. They changed their algorithms, but having these guys come on and telling people to tag, because this is at a time where there was not a lot of shows going live.
Exactly, because I would hop on and be like, "Oh, I could ask a question." You'd answer. That's amazing.
So that was a challenge. I thought, like, how can I separate myself from everybody else? All right, well, we're just gonna go live, and we went live for 2 reasons. A, we can tag people, right? They can share it. All these different Facebook groups before it became frowned upon, right? Through 2018. And B, I didn't have to be any good because people are very forgiving of your life.
Yeah, true.
If I'm doing this recording, I gotta go back. I gotta filter out the ums and ahs, and I just know myself. I'm not the kind of person that will sit down and clean out all the ums and ahs. So we just go live. People are forgiving. They're not gonna get upset about it. So I went live for 2 reasons, and those are it.
And people like raw footage.
They do.
Worked. So name of your podcast, so everyone knows.
Real Estate Disruptors.
Got it. All podcast platforms, only assuming.
All yes.
Awesome, man. So that led into, like, I want to talk about sales with you. So is there any correlation there before we segue? Like,
there wasn't really particularly any correlation. What really happened was around that time we were wholesaling. And one of the reasons why I started the wholesaling podcast is because I wanted to get better at wholesaling. Okay. And so at that time, Pace Morby, who's another guy in town who's doing really well, I was trying to buy deals from him. He's like, I can't sell my deals to you. I have a commitment to Jamil and some other guy. I was like, well, I really want your deal. So I kept harassing him. Right? At this time, I'm a broker, right? I was Sunny Homes Realty. I'm a broker, and he's just my contractor, right? He had a general contracting company. So the relationship was broker contractor, but I want to wholesale, and he's a home investor guy also.
Gotcha.
So I'm trying to get deals from him, and I keep harassing him. He wouldn't send me his deals. Like, Steve, if you're trying to do deals, why don't you just hang out with us home investor guys? It's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, we hang out every Friday. It's like, there's a place where all you guys just hang out every Friday, right? And he goes back to income generating activity, right?
Yep.
So I said, okay, if there's a room where you guys all hang out, I want to be in that room. There's no way I'm not making money being in that room.
There's more than one pace, like
more than one pace, right? There's a whole bunch of paces in there.
Yeah.
And so I find out what it is and with Sandler, which is Sandler sales training, right? And I sign up not wanting sales training, truthfully. I just wanted to be in that room.
Be in a room.
And the sales trainer was really good at what he does. So I got to meet with him, and he trained me, and like the guy's still really good at what he does. The difference for us is that ours is specific to real estate. But yeah, I mean, I learned a lot from him. And what I did personally was I spent 2 hours on Tuesdays, 90 minutes on Wednesdays, 90 minutes on Fridays. And I'd be in his office, just picking his brain, learning from him for over a year. And thankfully, I had a business where everyone else in the office can work, right? Get things done, get deals closed, while I get to invest in myself, right? So that was the beginning of that. And after I learned that, I went to Dallas for We Live in 19,
Mm-hmm.
and I shared what I've learned, how it applied to our business. And man, like every guru says like, oh, I made this course because everyone was asking for it. But legitimately, like everyone was begging me for it. I was like, okay, well, everyone wants it, we'll make it.
Right, make it.
Yeah.
Supply and demand. Supply it. They demanding it, so why not put it out there?
100%. So that's how the sales thing started. I'll share with you, I am probably the worst salesperson you ever met naturally. And so I think that's the reason why I can teach it better, is because I was really bad at sales.
So why do you think you're bad?
I was bad because I was an engineer, right? Analytical. And most people that don't have a selling system, a selling process, default to selling how they want to buy. And for me, I'm the kind of person that wants to do my research. I want to compare. I want to go to all the different locations, ask all these salespeople all these questions, and install them, right? Think, delay them. It's like, let me call you later, right? And then I make them bid against each other, right? Like that's how I was as an engineer. So when someone says I need to think about it, of course you need to think about it. That's what I would do.
Right.
Exactly.
And so because I was so bad, I was not closing nearly as many deals as I should have. As a matter of fact, like if I was any good at sales, I'd probably be retired by now, because I was killing on PPC for the first 7 years, right? From 2010, 2011 to 2018, right? Before, Sean Terra was telling everyone about it the whole time, but like it got crazy competitive in 2017, right? So like I was paying back in 2010, 2011, I was looking at it, $2 a click, $12 a lead.
Oh, wow.
Right? I should have retired if I was any good at sales, but I wasn't. I was awful.
So what made you think you were, and so was it at that home investors meeting? I know you met the sales trainer. Did he give like a presentation?
No, he was just teaching fundamentals and tidbits here and there, right? Like we're talking about this topic, and it's a revolving topic, right? Similar to our style. The difference, again, like his is more general based. You need to make your scripts. We made our scripts, and that's what we teach.
So how'd you know you were bad? Like what did he do, or what happened that night?
Oh,
that you're just like, well, I probably need to go. This is cool, but you went. You took it full on. So something happened.
I would say the biggest thing is realizing all those things you screwed up, right? If I say, hey, Mike, you need to get better at sales, you're like, no, like I got it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But if I explain all the things you screwed up, and you're like, oh yeah, no, I do that. Okay, that's a mistake. Yeah, I do that too.
True.
Right.
Oh, I could have closed another contract if I just did.
Yeah. So now you start adding in your head all those contracts that you lost. And you're like, oh wow, I actually am not as good as I thought I was. And everyone thinks they're good at sales, right? Everyone thinks they're naturally, especially if they might have been told their whole lives, you're good at sales. Have you thought about getting into sales? And I see this a lot with extroverts, and unfortunately extroverts tend to be the worst at sales, but they think they're the best at sales because everyone's told them they should get into sales. And the reality is a lot of extroverts are just naturally good at marketing. Right? If you told everyone that you knew every day that you buy houses, you do really well. That's not sales, that's marketing.
Right. That's it.
So true, man. That's especially with, in the beginner stuff that we teach and stuff. If you don't have a budget, man, just a deal will fall in your lap.
Yeah.
If you just say that every day.
We just tell everybody. But that's marketing.
Yes.
That's not sales.
Yeah.
Right.
You still got to close that.
Still got to close it. So that's the other skill.
So now you had that, you dived in. How long were you studying with that gentleman?
I was going 3 times a week for at least a year, and then twice a week for another couple of years.
And were you like taking stuff from the training and then coming back to the wholesale company or the brokerage and like, try this, try that, and were your reps or yourself
getting those reps up, finding out what works, what doesn't work? Because there's, how many times have you read a book? It's like, oh man, this is gonna kill it.
Right.
Like, guys, watch out. We're going to rock it with this. And then it completely is like done. Yeah. Right. And other things, like you just try it and like, wow, I cannot believe how well that works. So yeah, I would say it's just constant application and finding what works, what doesn't work for our space.
So what do you think is how does an introvert become well at sales or good at sales?
Well, an introvert just needs to get a little bit outside their comfort zone. And so the introvert naturally listens. Generally, most introverts tend to listen more than they talk. And that's actually a good thing in sales because people don't want to be talked to. They want to be listened to.
True.
So I think as an introvert, probably the hardest thing is going to be prospecting. But once you're in a living room, it actually isn't as hard because you listen, right? And that's the selling part. Now you're going to have to do some things you might be uncomfortable with, pushing people for a yes or a no. Not pushing for a yes. That's a big, we don't push for yes. We push for a yes or a no. that might be something an introvert may be uncomfortable with. But again, you'll win the sale more often than not by being a good listener than being a good pusher.
Right.
Got
Because
it.
that's, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, the majority of sales is listening, because you're trying to solve a problem and you got to find out, you got to be able to identify that problem before you can come up with a solution.
Right. So I've said in our trainings that you have not earned the right to prescribe until you learn to diagnose.
True.
I got to understand what's keeping Marcus up at night. What's he worried about? What are some feelings he's experiencing? What are some things that maybe his wife is telling him that's, like not going well? And then what's the ideal outcome for you? If in 3 months, 9 months, or in 30 days, 90 days, you're able to move on from here and live in another part of the country, maybe buy an RV, maybe pay off your debts, maybe help your kid go to college, whatever it is. But if I know what's inside your head, right, I've diagnosed, now I can make you an offer that you might be interested in. I might just come over, hey, what's your offer? And I make you your offer, you're like, get the heck out of my house.
Right.
Which is typically what happens.
So how do we get that? What you said to, there's another group, there's the intro, extrovert, and there's that, I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to be a car salesman, you know, and so how do you get past that? And how do we show all these people how important, sales is to your business? And we overlook that.
It's interesting. First, the root word of sales, right, is of Greek origin, which means to serve, right? Yeah. To sell someone is to serve them, to give them what they need. Second thing is something I just learned very recently. I'm going through some additional training outside of sales, but some leadership training. And if we look at it, a lot of what we do in sales is a lot the same thing we do as leadership, something we do as parenting, something we do as teaching, right? As if I find out what situation you're in, and I find out what situation you want to be in, right, the ideal outcome, then it's my job as a salesperson, or as a leader, or as a parent, or as a teacher, is to get you from one place to another, right? And so to sell someone is to basically help them out of a bad situation and into a better situation. Now, one thing that people say, well, I don't want to be too pushy, I don't want to be manipulative. I think the key here is that sales could be used, right, for the wrong purposes. So you look at intent. You look at, are we manipulating them or are we serving them? If you believe, right, they're in a bad spot, and you believe that you have the right solution for them, then I believe you have an obligation to serve them by selling them. If you're just taking advantage of people, well, then I think there's a place for you.
Yeah. And that's one of the key things is, like you said, with leadership is service. As long as you're providing service, the people that provide the best service, the most service, are usually the high income generators and high income earners, because the more people they help, the more gratuity that they receive in return. So that's what people have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and I think you look at, you can do anything in life you want, so long as you help enough other people get what they want, and you got the go-giver, right? I can't remember which principle it was number 3, number 4, right? But the law of compensation is your income is directly proportional to the number of people that you serve.
True.
Right. So it's just something you got to remember.
And I think you can go a long ways. You can go all the way with just that advice. So what about the people listening that want an actionable item? Like, say there's, how to set an appointment on the phone with, I'm assuming you prefer phone. So you like phone, face-to-face better?
We prefer face-to-face.
Okay.
Prefer face-to-face. And the reason why is body language tells so much of the story, so much. And you can definitely do business virtually. We coach a lot of people across the country that do it virtually. I think that if you're going to do it virtually, you just have to make a conscious decision, right? It's a business decision that I am going to close more sales to make it up in volume, that I'm going to lose in revenue, right? Because your margin is going to be smaller and you have more fallout, right? If I met you face to face, we shake hands, we sign a contract, you're more likely to meet me at the closing table. If I work with Marcus, I never meet him face to face, right? But we greet everything over the phone. Yeah, he might show up on closing day, but he might not, because I'm still just a voice on the phone. Right. If I talk to you and you don't like what I'm saying on the phone, you're just silent. Face to face, I can see you lean back. I can see you cross your arms. I can see your face make a weird twitch. Whatever. It's like, slow down, back it up.
Back up.
Right. Those are things that you miss when you're on the phone.
That's so true. And all you got is the voice inflection. Sometimes you can pick up, but not as much as in person.
You can pick up when they're flustered, but you can't pick up like, because you say the next thing and you don't even know where you are.
Yeah, exactly. Because we do a lot of phone closes, and that's one of the things that we have trouble with is always tell our agents to Ask that open-ended question and wait for that response. Don't feel comfortable just constantly talking because you're not getting any feedback. You don't know where you are in that conversation.
Yeah. And there's an old saying I learned from Kung Fu, right? In sales. But what my grandmaster says, I can see you, but you can't see me. And the idea is I know exactly where you stand at this whole time in this conversation, but you don't know exactly where I'm at. All I'm doing is trying to come up with your perfect solution, right? And once we get to the very end, and I can draw this map exactly as you want it, then I can say, hey, Mike, this is what you want? Like, that's exactly what I want. Perfect. Sign the contract, right? But if I'm just like pitching features and benefits and like, here's why we're awesome, by the way, we're number one, or, we pay the most, blah, blah, blah. You ready? Like, but you don't know what I want.
Yeah, exactly.
So on June 13th, Monday night, venue 8600 at the AZREIA Monthly Meeting, you're going to join us.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to this.
And I think you gave us, these concepts you just went over, are enough for anyone to get started. Just changing your mindset to the way you're explaining will take you further. So what can we expect on Monday?
So the biggest thing you're going to get is understand why you're doing may not be working, right? We're not saying it's wrong, but why it may not be as effective as it could be. So that's number one. And then B, we're going to go over exactly what to say at the appointment so that you avoid, I need to think about it, right? Okay. Why I need to sleep on it. Let me talk to my realtor. Let me talk to my attorney. We're going to deal with how to deal with that specific objection, because for me, that was my number one objection, right? Pricing is pricing, right? You can negotiate, that's another skill. But for me, my biggest challenge for most of my career was I need to think about it. And everyone's like, you got the Grant Cardone. I was like, well, just push him, right? Just give him the pen, right? Like, just agree whatever they say.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that works. But man, again, if you push someone hard, will they show up in closing day? We don't know.
Shut down.
Right. So how to overcome, I need to think about it without being a pushy salesperson.
So do you have like scripts, or do you walk in with like pre-planned questions, like for all these scenarios?
So those are scripts. So it's setting the proper framework for the beginning of the appointment, because, the example I've shared in the past is my kids, they'll make a mess in the living room. And my wife was upset one night, and I was like, what are you upset about? She's like, I'm tired of how messy the living room is. She's like, well, when's the last time you told them they couldn't do that? She's like, I've never told them that. I asked her, like, well, how can you possibly be upset with them? Well, if you never tell a prospect, it's got to be yes, no, you're not allowed to think about it professionally. And that's what we go over on Monday. If you don't ever tell them that, how can they possibly know they weren't allowed to do that?
Does your wife know that you use this example?
Oh, she knows all my sales. She uses it on me.
This example about not talking to the kids?
Yeah, that's good though. You give them an option. Hey, it's either yes or no. No, I don't think. Yeah. No, I'll think about it.
Just tell me no. It's all right. Right? Like, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. If this doesn't work for you, that's okay. And empowering someone to say no, they're more likely to say no. But when you empower them to say no, you'll find out why it's a no, and you can work with that.
Love it. So people will be able to walk away with a framework.
Of how to say yes, get the prospect with all maximum courtesy, professionalism. Yes, no, you're not allowed to think about it.
Rebuttals in some way? Is that did you touch on those?
You absolutely could. I mean, I think the Q&A component, or we could even do, like, one thing I do is, stump the trainer. Like, if there's something that they're running into, right? Or even
what's that? Let us know what that is first.
Stump the trainer, basically, I'll role play. I'll be the buyer. You be the seller. You give me your worst objections. I'll tell you exactly what I say to overcome.
So we could throw you some questions.
Throw me some curveballs
at the event.
100%.
All right, love it.
So that's why it's important to be at venue 8600. What's the date again, Mike?
June 13th, Monday night.
June 13th, Monday night. Come and stump the trainer.
Yeah,
see what you can
do. Hey, if you're listening to this, bring your toughest objections. Just work it through.
Real estate agent, wholesaler, contractor, sales agent, or insurance agent, you name it, right? Anybody. Your kids, bring the kids. Anything. Love it. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Anything you want to add, Steve, or tell them?
I just want to say, it's a pleasure. I've known you for a long time. We sold you a 5-plex, which one of those we wish we kept.
Yeah, that's one of them. That was a horror story in itself, but it works out.
But I think that it's an amazing service you guys offer. AZREIA. Like I said, I first met you guys in 2007, and I would have just stayed the course and listened to you guys back then, might be retired by now.
Love it.
Well, Steve, we don't think you're doing too bad, man. You're
Yeah, I
providing
think
a
you're doing
service.
pretty good.
Yeah, I think
Appreciate
you're
it.
providing a service to
Still 15
everyone as
years
well.
Yeah. Well, and to kind of throw it out there for everyone, all our members listening, no, we're going to start working closer with you, Steve, right? So like, as you know, we have a lot of foundational programs and trainings and networking to help you build and grow your business, you know, and support your business. And, you know, we want to bring Steve in and do some more higher level education, right? And sales, wholesaling, whatever you provide.
Absolutely. I look forward to working. And, you know, one of the big things for me is giving back, you know, going back to what we said earlier, Zig Ziglar and Law of Compensation, Go-Giver, like however I can help with the AZREIA community, I am.
Yep. Love that you're here. You will start seeing Steve a lot more.
Awesome.
Excited about that.
Okay, so Arizona, AZREIA members, you guys know what to do. Move at the speed of instruction, as another podcaster would say. Come out, meet Steve, come and stump the trainer, meet Mike, meet myself. Come out and just have a wonderful time. So guys, you know exactly what to do. Always remember to enjoy the journey, and we will see you next week on our next episode.
Thanks for listening to the AZREIA Show with your hosts, Marcus Maloney and Mike Delprete. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you found this information valuable, head over to AZREIA.org and learn more about our community.